This is Math 2, 7.5 notes. That's Unit 7, Lesson 5. Okay, you should have received this handout in class. If not, you can print it off from my website or just write the problems down on a separate piece of paper. I'm going to have you flip it over to the back first, and we are going to cut off the bottom piece here, and we're going to write some notes in this section here that you're going to need, some vocabulary words you're going to need. Okay, first one is angle of elevation. Elevation means to elevate, to lift, to look up. So elevation is looking up. You're at a certain point and you're looking upward. So it could be a person at the top of a building, at the top of a cliff, or an airplane, or whatever it may be. But you're down here and you're looking up to somebody. That's angle of elevation. When you have your horizontal line of sight and you look up, that is angle of elevation. Okay, so now it's always from the horizontal line of sight, but in our notes we're just going to assume everything's on the ground level. Even though the person is standing or whatever it may be, we're going to assume it's at ground level. Okay, so let's make a note. This here is angle of elevation. To elevate, to lift up, to look up. Elevation means you are looking up. You are down, you're looking up at a bird, at an airplane, at a person at the top of a building, whatever it may be. Okay, second one is angle of depression. Depression, the word depress, to push down, you're depressing something, you're pushing it downward, you're looking down. Okay, so very similar. There's a person at the bottom, there's a person at the top, and this time the person at the top is looking down at the person at the bottom. So you have your horizontal line of sight and you look downward to the person. Okay, so your triangle is upside down. This here is your angle of depression. And we will talk about ways to flip the triangle or how to work with it when it's upside down. But you do need to remember, angle of depression is always an upside down triangle until you flip it around. And I say this because kids draw their pictures and they put their angle, they draw their triangle like this, and they put that as their angle of depression, and it is not. Okay, if you did draw your triangle like this is a Z shape, and you should notice that these two angles are congruent. Angle of depression is congruent down here. Okay, so with that being said, I am going to flip this over and work on number 1. A tree cast a shadow that is 21 meters long at a certain time of day. The angle of elevation to the sun from the tip of the shadow is 51 degrees. What is the height of the tree? You will need a scientific calculator, so I hope you have one already. If not, hit pause and go grab it. Okay, so we're going to draw our picture. We have our tree. Ground level. A tree cast a shadow that is 21 meters long. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and draw my triangle. Here's the ground. Here's the sun, making the sun ray down to the ground, and this is where the shadow ends, and the shadow is 21 meters. Okay, now a mistake kids make is they always put the 21 up here on the hypotenuse. Your shadow is on the ground. Your shadow is not hovering up in the air. Shadow is on the ground. So whenever you're labeling the shadow, make sure it's on the ground level, not the hypotenuse. And the tip of the shadow is 51 degrees. That's here. Now another thing, angle of elevation when you're dealing with these type of word problems is always from the ground. Ground looking up. Elevation, down looking up to the bird, to the plane, to the top of the tree in this case. The angle of elevation to the sun from the tip of the shadow is 51 degrees. What is the height of the tree? Okay, so we're going to use our SOHCAHTOA stuff that we were just working with recently. So let's write that down. SOHCAHTOA. SOHCAHTOA, and you're going to do the same thing we've been doing, only now we're doing them with word problems. So you have to draw your picture first. Put your pin mark here. X and 21. This is my right angle here. Hypotenuse is not labeled, so I'm not going to label it. X is the opposite. 21 is the adjacent. Opposite side does not touch the angle or the pin mark, and your adjacent side does. So SOHCAHTOA, which one's opposite adjacent? That is tangent. So we do tangent of an angle, 51, equals, opposite over adjacent, so x over 21. Now, we're not looking for an angle, we're looking for a side. So if I'm looking for a side, that's where I cross multiply. And I have 21 times tangent of 51 equals x, and you just plug it in your calculator. So I'm going to type it in, 21 times tangent of 51. And I didn't tell you where to round, so I'm going to tell you right up here, when you're looking for a side length, we're going to round to the nearest tenths place. That means one place after the decimal. When we're looking for a missing angle, we're going to round to the nearest whole number. Okay, so looking for an angle, whole number. Looking for a side, tenths place. This is a side, so would it be 25.9, or would that round up to 26.0? It's going to stay 25.9 because the number after the 9 is not big enough to bump it up. So x is 25.9 meters long. The height of the tree is 25.9 meters. Okay, next one, number 2. A helicopter is hovering over a landing pad P 100 meters from where you are standing. The helicopter's angle of elevation with the ground is 12 degrees. What is the altitude of the helicopter? Altitude is another word for height. So here is, before I draw that, here is the helicopter. Okay, and a helicopter is hovering over a landing pad. So this is our landing pad here, and it's 100 meters from where you are standing. So you are over here. What is the altitude? Altitude is how high something is. And how far is the landing pad from where you are? That's 100 meters. The helicopter's angle of elevation with the ground is 12 degrees. Remember, angle of elevation is always at the ground. Now again, I said when we're dealing with people, we're always dealing with ground level. We're not going to do it with line of sight, not in this class anyway. And it did say it's 12 degrees with the ground, not with your horizontal line of sight, so we do not have to worry about how tall this person is. Okay, so here's our picture. We're going to label, this is the angle, x is the opposite because it does not touch, 100 is the adjacent because it touches, and it's not the hypotenuse because this is the hypotenuse and it's not labeled. So we're going to look at SOHCAHTOA. And which one are we going to use for opposite adjacent? That's tangent. So tangent of 12 degrees, always an angle, equals x over 100. And you're going to put 1 underneath and cross multiply. 100 times tan of 12 equals 1 times x is x. And there's nothing, no extra work, you just plug it in. There's no dividing that you have to do. So 100 times tangent of 12 equals the nearest tenths place. Would that be 21.2 or 21.3? Because of the 5, it makes the 2 a 3, so x is 21.3, and it is meters. Okay, I do want to do the next one because it is an angle of depression problem. So taking a look at number 4, a person in a lighthouse 32 meters above sea level sights a buoy in the water. Okay, so here is my lighthouse. I'm not going to draw anything fancy because of time. And here's the water, and here's the buoy out in the ocean. So a personal lighthouse 32 meters above sea level. So here's the 32. That's the height of the lighthouse. Sights a buoy in the water. If the angle of depression to the buoy is 20 degrees, how far from the base of the lighthouse is the buoy? Here's the base of the lighthouse. There's the buoy. That's the X we're looking for. Angle of depression is when somebody is looking down. So it's not from the buoy looking up. It's from the top of the lighthouse looking down. And the biggest mistake kids make is they put the angle inside here. That's not the case. Remember, it's always the upside down triangle when you're dealing with angle of depression. What is the angle? 20 degrees. So 20 degrees goes out here. And you have choices. You can draw the upside down triangle. That's X. That's 20. This is 32 because of the rectangle. Or you could use the Z shape. Do you guys see the Z shape here? And the horizontal line of sight is parallel with the ground or the water, and so these two angles are congruent. So I'm just going to use the congruent triangles and put the 20 down there. If you wanted to use the upside down triangle, it would work out exactly the same. Okay, so I'm going to put my pin mark here, and I'm going to label 32 is opposite and X is adjacent. They did not label the hypotenuse, so I don't need it. So this is again tangent. Tangent of 20 equals 32 over X. Cross multiply. This is the easy one. Actually, it is not, sorry. X times tangent of 20 equals 32 times 1 is 32. This is the one with the extra step. Because I'm not ready to plug in the calculator, I have to get X by itself by dividing both sides by tangent of 20. Gone there. Plug it in. X equals, plug it in your calculator, 32 divided by tangent of 20. And that gives you 87.9, so that would be 87.9 because the one's after, so 87.9 meters. Okay. Now, taking a look at the ones in the back, I'm going to finish these two with you in class. I do want you trying them on your own, and we will work them out together in class. That is it for this lesson.